What's up, good people, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. Cam and I are getting ready to jump into our review of the sequel, the highly anticipated sequel from Into the Spider-Verse, as we jump into now Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, coming to theaters June 2nd. As I mentioned, this is the sequel. And there's a lot of news with this as well, because I actually kind of want to start off by talking about that. I totally forgot that this was supposed to be a two-parter. But nonetheless, this is obviously the second of what is a trilogy, but possibly could be more, because I think, you know, now that Sony finally done found their groove in terms of telling superhero stories, you know what happens when they get confident. They start laying out a whole slate of things, and whether it happens or not, we'll see. But they definitely got one with Into the Spider-Verse. So I think everybody had their eyes set on Across the Spider-Verse. And I'm going to throw it to you for your initial thoughts on, did you love it? Did you not? What was your thoughts about the film?
Yeah, I actually loved it. For the longest time, I've been against Sony Marvel films because they just been kind of all over the place. But I feel like this one actually came in full circle and really just came together 100%. I thought it was a great film, and even though it's animation, they did such a great job with little nods to the comic book as well as to other films as well. So I thought it was really dope.
Yeah. I know, and I, you know, we got to see it last night, and I saw a lot of folks with their reactions and their out of the theater thoughts and all that other good stuff. I was completely drained, so I definitely had a night to sleep on it. And while I think the animation is very great, I think the voice acting is very great, I wasn't overly in love with this film, and I think it has a lot to do with it being just one part of what we know to at least be a two-parter within this film. I thought the first one was just so good, and I really don't like comparing, you know, to previous films, but I just thought the first one set the bar so high, that I knew there was no way that this could actually ever live up to that. And while I did have a lot of fun with this film, I think it was so noticeable that this was definitely a one-parter to a film, because there was parts of the film that felt very dragged. There was parts of the film that you were just kind of like, how are we going to wrap this up, you know? And yes, I get on two-parters, that means the second part you'll wrap up the film,
Right.
But I think as a standalone film itself, it definitely had moments where you just felt like elements of the film was just trying to set up for the second film, that it forgot that it needed to have actually a complete film here. But what it did do is that it did establish a couple of things that I was already suspicious of upon leaving Into the Spider-Verse. I said that now that Sony got something, you know, and when Sony, when you go back, when you think about Sony and when they start laying out slate of films, just like, oh, we're going to do Sinister Six and and they're still slowly creeping to wanting to do that. You know, when they get confidence, man, they set a plan out. And I said, you know, especially with Spider-Man being part of the MCU and how that deal was going to work, and I thought once they really did something good with the live action Spider-Mans, I was like, okay, well, obviously Tom Holland, they're going to try to keep him on this side as much as they can. There's a lot of rumors in terms of where he's going to be at with that. I started to think like, okay, what's going to be the next hero that they're going to establish? And I said, you know, going back to 2018, I said that without a doubt it's going to be Spider-Gwen. And the beginning part of this film absolutely establishes a well-rounded story about her. And I think it also created that emotional investment into her, instead of her just being another Spider-Man or Spider-Woman, respectively, or just a companion to Miles Morales. But I think in the beginning part of the film, I think it established in a very quickly way, well, not quickly, I say it was about a third of the film. I think it established, you know, just how significant this character is and her story. So with that, I think that this film did really set up interest in other characters outside of Miles. So I think that, you know, when you think about even our, well, I won't use that term, but when you think about the other Spider-Mans that we were introduced to, I think there's enough interest into these other characters, whether you know them or not, whether you're deep into the ethos of Spider-Man. I think there's still a lot of intrigue in terms of like, well, who's that one? Let me look that one up, and so on. And I think it would be criminal if they didn't go crazy with the merchandise on the back end here. Once this release, I mean, you can throw out a slate of toys for the end of forever for the different Spider-Mans that you introduced into it. So, for me, to kind of wrap this up, I thought this film was fun. It did a lot of the good animation stuff that the first one did, even better at times. But I just thought that as a complete standalone story, there was parts that felt rushed. There was parts that definitely led you to know that, like, hey, what? Like, I'll be uncandid here. We know that, and I'm gonna read the synopsis just so you all know that I'm not like a spoiler here, but we do know that the villain is the Spot.
Right.
The Spot is absent in the third act of the film.
Like, you don't even see him at all. It's literally them trying to figure themselves, like, what's going on?
And here we go. Let me just read the synopsis real quick. Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle the new threat being the Spot, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. So right. So
like, okay.
And to that point, it's just like, he was just gone for the third act of the film. So I was just kind of like, okay, so I guess I have to wait until 2 years from now to kind of get the complete story here. But yeah, other than that, I did enjoy. I thought the film was fun. I just don't. I see a lot of hot takes. I'm hearing like best film of the year. I'm hearing all sorts of different things, and I wouldn't fully agree there. I just think that this was fun. A good animation, good voice acting. It could have been our theater that we were in. You can speak to this. But I wasn't really impressed with the sound. I thought the soundtrack was great.
It seemed low, right?
Right.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, like the soundtrack was great. The sound wasn't good. There was moments where I thought, like, just to kind of give a little bit of more insight into it, like Gwen is in a band and she rocks out. And I felt like I should have been rocking out with her. And in fact, it felt like almost like she was giving a monologue where the music was just the backdrop. But and if that was the case, then fine. But I felt like the music was like supposed to be an additive to the story that she was telling you. We understand her conflict. Again, we get introduced to her and understanding more about her hobbies, her family dynamics, all these sorts of different things. And I felt like the music was definitely a companion piece to that. In fact, it felt like she was doing a monologue, and then they were just like, throw some percussion in the background. It's like
snares in there. We're good.
Right. And there were some other times that it felt like the same thing. So I don't know if it was the theater, or I don't know if this is just how they did the sound mixing, but I know for me, and maybe it's just my thoughts about music, I would have wished for the music to be a little bit more impactful, much like the first one. The first one, the music was a part of the experience just as much as you're swinging around New York, So but that's a lot of my thoughts. What about you, man?
Yeah, I feel the same way, even about the soundtrack altogether. I think a lot of the music that was included in the soundtrack were it felt like work laptop music, you know what I'm saying? Like something you would listen to while you're working or doing a report. It didn't seem like something to get you hype, you know what I'm saying, for the film or for the fight scenes. So I think that was a big drawback, as well as, like we said, some of the scenes were pretty drawn out, especially as you start getting to the third act or towards the end of the movie. But I think with us forgetting that there's actually a part 2 coming, we were like, all right, we've been in here like 2 hours and a half. When is the final fight gonna happen, or where's the Spot at? And then, you know what I'm saying? So but all around, I actually liked the film. I thought it was pretty good. Sony for me has been pretty hit or miss, like I said. So for this one, I'm really big on the Miles Morales story, with all of the different cameos that you see in this film and different little nods to the comic book. I'm hoping that they'll be able to build on that and just grow within this universe, because like you said, the Gwen story is really, really popular, I think, with a lot of people, and really reaching out to the female audience, I think, as well, and the little girls out there that want to be Gwen Spider after seeing all these years of Spider-Man. I think it's a huge opportunity for them not only to capitalize, but to really jump into that market for the female audience as well.
1,000%, and that's exactly my thoughts. I mean, I say it all the time. The most popular superhero of all superheroes, whether it's Batman or it's Spider-Man,
Right.
so introducing Miles is definitely going to reach a certain demographic and audience here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you watch the slate of animation shows that's on Disney Plus, or excuse me, the Disney Channel or Disney Plus, you'll see that there was a strong focus in a lot of these women or girl
Yeah.
superheroes, and Gwen being in front of that. And right
Yeah.
behind Gwen was like Squirrel Girl, and
Yeah.
Miss
Yeah.
Marvel. So like we
Right.
see them, Miss Marvel obviously doing the thing on with live action.
Mhm.
Squirrel Girl still killing it within that Disney Channel slate
Right.
of shows.
Yep.
And then it was Spider-Gwen, who I said Sony has got to be focused on her, knowing that she
Yeah.
is the next big property and could be even bigger than Spider-Man just because of the different markets that Spider-Gwen could hit. And I think they did a good job in making sure, of course, voiced by Haley. So like it's a no-brainer here that you should want to invest in her. And I think that they did a really good job in bringing this version of Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman to life. But beyond that too, I mean, the voice acting cast got much more deeper here. You got Daniel Kaluuya, who is Spider-Punk, who is great. And
Yeah, he's
I was
really good, man.
super
He's
excited
really
for
good,
this.
yeah.
Issa Rae as Jessica Drew. Everybody eyes were set on Jessica in the trailers. Oscar Isaac here as Miguel O'Hara, or as you know him as Spider-Man 2099. There's a lot of different Spider-Mans that come up here, and I will say this is where Sony had a lot of fun. As I mentioned, if you're deep in the ethos, your eyes was going crazy over the different cameos and references and nods. I mean, listen, any and every Spider-Man, almost any and every Spider-Man, because there was some I was looking for I didn't see. Almost any and every Spider-Man ever mentioned is in here. I mean, you're talking about the comics, you're talking about the video games, you're talking about the live action ones. All of them are getting some moment of either a nod, a reference, or even a bit of stock footage. You're getting something. I think they did a really good job into having fun in their own space. And this is what Sony needs to do. Sony needs to not be the MCU with Disney.
Right.
They need to stand on their own, and they need to be able to create their own universe. And that's essentially what Into the Spider-Verse has started. And now we're seeing it bred all across all of the Sony properties, which to me, we'll talk about it in just one quick second. I think this is a really good start. Another step forward from the start of Into the Spider-Verse with now Across the Spider-Verse. And I obviously I got to mention Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. He just doubles down from the fantastic work he did the first time outing with this, and it's good to see him really care about this character. Shameik has had a lot of work this last year with other shows and projects, but when it comes down to Miles, he's hitting conventions again. He really loves his character, and you can tell by the work that he's done. And then Haley as well too, shall I mention. Brian Tyree Henry is also Jefferson Davis, who is Miles' dad. I mean, he's completely hilarious in this. Luna Velez as his mother. They got some great moments together screen too. So the one thing I want to say, and also just to kind of give a little bit more emphasis on what's happening with this film. So with the Spot is after Miles because it's Miles' fault why the Spot is created, and he feels that Miles is taking everything away from him, and he's looking to give him a piece of his own cake here. So it's this typical villain story, which is fun. It's not so deep, but I will say this though, that the Spot and his capabilities, his powers, really makes him a very intriguing villain for a story that you have Spider-Man's jumping through different not different timelines, different universes, different Earths. So the Spot and his abilities goes hand in hand with that. So I think that was really, really cool. He doesn't want to be the villain of the week no more. He wants to be the main threat. So he's doing any and everything to do so. I also think that with the different Spider-Mans, we get different representation as we go to India. We go to a different timeline where we see India being the main focus for the Spider-Man universe. And I think that's really cool to see the different the different representations and the different backgrounds and ethnicities of Spider-Man, which basically tells you that Spider-Man could be everybody and anybody. And I think that's really, really cool. And I mean, we're seeing girls, we're seeing boys, we're seeing men, women, we're seeing pregnant women, we're seeing animals, dinosaurs, you're seeing all those sorts of different things. And I think that's really, really cool. And then the Spot, who has the multiverse in his hand, is looking to make sure that Miles know that he's just not the villain of the week. So it's a really cool story on both ends. And
Definitely.
For Spider-Man 2099, you know, he has to explain canon events and anomalies, and Miles need to figure out what does that all mean to him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm lost.
Oh man. I got one more thing, but I'll give it to you. Is there other parts of the film you want to talk about, or other parts you liked or didn't like?
So I just thought about it just now when you were talking about inclusivity, and I thought they really dabbled, I think, a lot more deeper into the Puerto Rican, African American lifestyle within Brooklyn. They really added a lot more Spanish or Spanglish into this film, which I thought was super cool too. Because I think in the first film we got like, you know, he was like, bye mommy, you know what I'm saying, little small things, but here they were like speaking full Spanish, which I thought was really cool about it. So that, I think that would bring in another audience as well that would be able to add that to this film. I've never seen Spider-Punk without a mask, and I'm super dope to see how he looked. It really surprised me, honestly. So yeah, I love that part of the film though. It was great.
Yeah, the reason I actually ever known what Spider-Punk without a mask looked like, because one of my favorite cosplayers cosplays only Spider-Punk. And
oh really? Okay.
Yes, I've always been really invested into when I used to see him at conventions, I'd be like, man, this dude is cool, you know what I mean? Then got to know him a few and talk to him a few times, and then I actually just said like, wait, I need to look this up. And I think that is what a lot of folks are going to get from watching this movie. They're going to see different Spider-Mans. Like, wait, is there really a Spider-Man that's a dinosaur? Yeah. There's also a Venom that's a dinosaur too. Yeah, so like it's going to make folks dive deep into the lore and really connect. And I think this is amazing work from Sony, because when you have the new Spider-Man game that's coming up, when you can see crumbles of the previous games in the film, you know, and when you know you got other movies coming up such as Kraven, and you're like, why should I care about Kraven? I think that this film is going to draw interest and connectability to everything that involves Spider-Man. So and for the folks on the other end who's played the games or seen the other movies, you're going to see the connectivity into this film. So that's where I think, instead of trying to be the MCU, do your own thing, work within your own space, and I think they'll be fine. I think now you have to start to think, because you get some answers from the very early part in this film of like, I wonder, will that be involved or mentioned in this? Absolutely. And you're talking about the different Earths, the different universes, they're all connecting. So listen, folks, I'm not going to spoil it, but if there's anything that you think may be connected to this film, they're absolutely going to mention it, show it ultimately, or at least some type of like nod or reference that definitely is gonna be like, oh, I know what you're talking about there, and you definitely get that, and that's really cool. And it also answers some questions that I had as well too, but I'm not gonna talk about that here. I'm gonna talk about that once we log off here. I should also mention that there's parts of this film that the plot is very eerily similar to the Flash, like the new Flash movie that's coming out. Like, I am kind of baffled that two films that are coming out within 2 weeks of each other have a very similar plot point. Last thing I will say is with the different things that are happening within the film, you're going to different dimensions or different Earths, different universes, whatever you want to call it. They do give you lower thirds or caption screens for two things: when they explain what Earth or universe that they're in, or if there's like a definition of something that you may not know about. There's going to be word slangs and little bits of lingo thrown out there that you may not be familiar with. They will absolutely mention it. They'll give you a caption, but the captions are so fast. I feel like that is it's gonna go over a lot of people's heads, and I feel like it's not gonna help the kids, because I don't think kids can read. They're gonna be lost. It's literally like that. But you know, if you're really trying to keep up with everything, especially when you're talking about timelines or universes and whatnot, you know, you got to keep your eyes glued to those little caption screens that they're going to throw up there, because they will try to help aid you through this universe across these this journey across these different universes. So, you know, the movie's funny, it's witty. And I love how they, not only the animation, but the different animation styles that they give us. And as I say, a lot of positive things about this film. I thought this film was a lot of fun. I really can't wait to own it. I really want to watch it again. Again, my biggest thing was just that it felt very much like a one-parter to a secondary films, which means I don't think it stands alone very good at all. I think that the pacing is a little off at times. There's parts that's completely drawn out, and then there's parts that are like quickly ran through, and then there's parts that's executed great, like the Gwen story. I think was handled
that was
great.
amazing.
You know, almost forgot that this was a Miles movie for me.
I literally did for a second. I was like, is he going to be in the film, or are you just going with her now?
Right. But yeah, with that being said, you do have a mid-credit scene. You do have the nod to the third film, Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's not a spoiler. That is out there. Everyone knows what the third film's gonna be. Well, it's gonna be part 2, but they're calling it now Beyond the Spider-Verse. So you have that to look forward to. But yeah, when it comes down to this movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, man, this is definitely a watch. This is absolutely a watch. You must go watch this. This will be in theaters June 2nd. You can let us know in the comments your thoughts, your excitement, your hype for this one, or if you got to check it out the world premiere, let us know your thoughts about it. But I'll do it here for us, and we'll catch you back here for more reviews and content very soon. Thank you for watching.